Lesson 3 deals with images and links. So this is actually a really important lesson in our course because from this point on, most of your pages are going to have images and links in them. So make sure you read through the pages in the book and then work through the lecture demo. And you'll notice that the lecture demo is split into 3 different readings. What I recommend is doing the image readings first and then the hyperlinks second. So this first image reading basically gives you background image information on the types of images that you find on the web. And what the differences are. And then some of the features that are in those images, like interlacing and transparency, animation. Okay. And then basically the 3 different images are GIF, JPEG, and PNG. Okay. And so we go through a description of each one and when should you use the different types. We also talk a little bit about SVG graphics, which is a new type of graphic that is based on lines. And so we don't really get into that in this class because it does require that you know XML, which you will not learn until CIT 190. But for those of you that are interested in learning more about this, I do have some links that you can follow so you can do a little research on your own. We do get into preparing graphics for the web, and Photoshop is probably the best program out there for photo editing. However, it is not free. There is a free program that is similar called GIMP, and here is a link so you could download that. But what we're going to use in our class is an online editor called Lunapic. This does not require any kind of downloading or installing, and a lot of very basic photo editing that we are going to be doing can be accomplished with Lunapic. So what we're basically going to focus on is resampling, cropping, and coloring adjustments. All of those can easily be done in Lunapic. Lunapic actually allows for all sorts of other types of edits. So I do have a link to their support site if you are curious as far as what you can do in Lunapic. Then we talk a little bit about what resampling is and what the steps are for resampling in Lunapic. You know, how do you determine the size of the image? How would you go about resampling? Okay, and then how do you crop an image? Okay, and these instructions are specific to Lunapic. And when you crop an image, you're basically discarding a portion of that image that you don't want. And so how do you know what part to keep and what part to discard? So there are some composition elements that you should be aware of. And so this little section kind of goes through what those are. And hopefully it'll help you when it comes to determining what to keep and what to discard. And then we get into color correction. And basically, if there's too much of one color, if you add in the color that is the opposite on the color wheel, you can correct the color. So if there was too much blue or too much purple, I would add in kind of a yellow or maybe a yellow-orange color to offset that. Okay, so here's an example of too much blue and then the color correction to fix that. In addition to correcting color, you can enhance color. Vibrance and saturation are 2 ways of doing that. You can also make your images a little more crisp by sharpening. So we cover how to do that in Lunapic. Also how to adjust light levels as far as highlights and shadows and that type of thing. And then Lunapic has some kind of cool art filters and effects. Okay, and so once you learn how to edit your images, then you are ready to put the images into your pages. And that is what this lecture demo shows. So basically the tag that we're dealing with is the image tag. And then we're dealing with different attributes that you add to that tag, such as source and alt. Okay, source is the file name, the image file that you want to display, and alt is alternate text for screen readers. Okay, and so alt and source are two attributes. Another attribute is title. And basically title just shows a tooltip. And then you can also set the image height and width. There's two different ways to do that. There is a width and a height property, or you can use the style attribute. Okay, so there's a couple different ways to set width and height. If you have downloaded an image or you've changed the image width and height, how do you know what that is? If you have a Windows machine and you go into the File Explorer, if you select the View tab, the Content selection will display the dimensions. You can also right-click on any graphic, go into Properties, and then if you go to Details, you can also see the height and width. Okay. Additional tags that are used with pictures are figure and fig caption. These are newer HTML5 tags, and you can kind of see how they are used. Are they required with image? No. So these are just additional tags that can be used with image if you're going to use them. The examples show you how to insert them. Okay, so that's pretty much all of the information on images. I would do these two at the same time. And then we get into hyperlinks. So hyperlinks are more complicated. There are internal links, which take you from one location on your page to another. And there are external links, which take you from one page to another. So first we talk about internal links and how do you set that up? And so the key here is to use the ID attribute to set up the target to the link location. So if you set up the target, okay, then you can add the link itself. Okay, so you can use ID to target a location, and then the link itself is created with the anchor tag and the href attribute. That stands for hypertext reference. And if it's an internal link to another location on the page, it's just a hashtag followed by the ID. So if I wanted to go to address, I would do hashtag address. So with the anchors, you have an opening and you have a closing. In between, that is the text that is going to be the link. Okay, and in between an opening and closing anchor, you can have text, but you could also have a little thumbnail graphic, and that graphic can be a link. Okay, so there's a couple different ways of setting that up. External links are links to other pages. And so if you have a website, chances are you're going to have multiple pages. And so you're going to have to create some links. And it is a good idea to kind of lay out the structure of your site. And so here are different ways of kind of envisioning how the pages in your site are going to interact. The way that you create a link is you still use the anchor tag and you use the href attribute, but in the double quotes, if you are linking to one of your own pages, you just have to really give it the name of the page. Okay, and then whatever text you want to display as the link and a closing anchor. Okay, when you link to a page that you created that's in the same directory, so it's in the same folder on the server, it's called a relative link. It's the absolute easiest kind of link to create because all you have to worry about is the name of the page that you're going to link to. Now you might be thinking, well, can I link to a page and then go to an ID within that page? Absolutely. So all you need is the name of the file, a hashtag, and the ID, which is the location. Okay, so here's the name of the page I want to link to, and on that page, this is the location. Now, probably the confusing thing about doing these links to different pages is that you need to kind of envision the folder structure at your site. And you have to be aware of what folder the page that is displayed is currently in. Okay, so if I am in the lesson 6 folder and I want to link to something that's in lesson 2, that means I have to tell the browser to come out of lesson 6, open lesson 2, and then I got to tell it the name of the page. Okay, so that's why in kind of envisioning where you're at is really, really important. Because you do have to give it a relative path. And a relative path tells it from the current location, how do I get to lesson 2 and open up the page that I want to see? So we already saw how to do a relative path that's in the same folder. All you do is specify the name. If you want to go to a relative path that is in a subfolder. Okay, so let's say I am on the assignment page and I want to see a butterfly garden page that's in lesson 2. Okay, from the assignment page, I need to open lesson 2, display the page. And this is how I would do it. I'm in the assignment page, so I tell it open lesson 2 and then display butterfly garden. Okay, so if I'm in the same directory, easy peasy, it's just the name. If I am, above the folder, then it's just the folder name, a slash, and the name of the page. Where it gets a little tricky is, as I said before, if I'm in one folder and I need to go out of that folder and then open up a different one. It's a little tricky because if I'm in, let's say, lesson 3, and I want to go over and see something in lesson 2, I have to tell it to get out of lesson 3. And the way I do that is ... /. Takes you up one level. So if I'm in lesson 3, ... takes me up a level to CIT180. Okay, and then I could say lesson 2/ and the name of the page. What if I'm in lesson 3 and I simply want to go back to my assignment page? Well, let's take a look here. If I'm in the lesson 3 folder and I want to go back up here to assignments, all I need to do is ... because that gets me out of lesson 3. And then I need to tell it assignments.html. Okay, so I would say // assignments.html, and that would take me out of lesson 3 to the CIT180 folder, and it would open up the assignments page. If I was looking at Butterfly Garden and I wanted to get over to Top Rock, how would I do it? Well, Butterfly Garden is in lesson 2. So I'd have to do // that takes me out of lesson 2. Then I would have to say lesson 3 / and then I'd say toprock.html. So // takes you out of lesson 2. Lesson 3 / tells you to open that folder, and then you tell it the name of the file. So relative links are a little tricky, only because you have to think about where the current page is in this directory structure. And then from the current location, how do you get to the page that you want to display? Absolute paths are what you would use to link to somebody else's website. So it's not one of your pages, it's somebody else's. So it would be somebody's page on a different server, in which case you have to do the entire web page. You cannot do a relative link. So you need the protocol, which actually now is HTTPS. You need the host, which is whatever follows HTTPS. And then you need the path, which is all the folders, followed by the name of the file. When you put all that together, you get the absolute address. So the main advantage of using an absolute path is that it's self-documenting, right? And it's actually pretty easy to get the link, because anything you want to link to, you just click up here and it highlights the entire address. And then you just do Control and the letter C, that'll copy it. You go into your editor, Control and the letter V as in Victor, that will paste, and then you have that full link. The huge disadvantage is that you don't have control over the site because it's not yours. And websites change locations, servers go up and down. So at any point in time, links don't work. So that would be the disadvantage. One important thing to keep in mind when you are creating links is that everything is case sensitive. Upper and lowercase letters are treated differently. So that is super important. If I was creating this link, but I named the page in all capitals, this link would not work, okay? So because the lowercase version doesn't exist. So be really careful with upper and lower casing. Now you can link to pages, and you can link to other media. And the way you link to other media is kind of the same way as linking to a page. You're going to use the anchor tag with href, and then you're going to give it the address of whatever it is you're linking to. So whether it be a graphic or a news group, okay, or a PowerPoint file or a text file, it does not matter what the object is. You just have to either give it a relative address if it's one of your files, or you have to give it an absolute address if it belongs to somebody else. Okay, and then you would have your underlined text and your closing anchor. So hopefully these still work. News groups really aren't used very often anymore, but it is a way for people to share information. And these do look like they're active. This is a PowerPoint file. Obviously, in order to see it, you have to have PowerPoint. That's another thing about linking to other media. Just because you create a link to it does not mean somebody is going to be able to see it. They have to have the right software. This is a link that is a text file. Pretty much everybody has those. Those are kind of standard now with computer equipment. So that should display. This is a link to a WordPress site. That is one of mine. You can do links to Pinterest. You can do links to Facebook. I've got a link to Flickr. So you can kind of check all of these out. Here's a link to a graphic. So the link to the graphic, that is a relative link. Okay, that is a graphic that is at this website. So I'm just telling it, open the media folder and display the graphic. The link to Pinterest, well, that's at a completely different domain. So I have to have the absolute address. The link to WordPress down here, completely different domain. So again, I have to have that full absolute address. So in addition to linking to your pages, linking to other people's pages, linking to all sorts of different types of media, you can also create an email link. And this also uses the anchor tag and the href attribute. But what you put inside href is a little bit different. It is mail to : then you put the email address, and that has to all be in double quotes. This is how you do an email link. Now, if you click on an email link, what happens is it tries to load the client email software, which is not Gmail or Yahoo. That would be like Outlook or any program, email program that people have downloaded and installed on their machines. And if you don't have an email program downloaded and installed, and you're on Windows like I am, it's going to try to get you to set up the Windows email. Okay, so I have not done that, so I'm going to get out of there. So just keep that in mind, that email links open up the client program. The title attribute that we looked at earlier in images, you can also use with links, and it basically displays like a little tooltip. Okay, same thing it did with images. Finally, we get into HTML comments. What I do quite often is I comment out code that I don't want to use yet. I don't really want to delete all of this. So instead, I just comment it out and then remove the comments when I want to use it. So the way you do a comment is you use these symbols at the beginning, and then anything after this is a comment. And then when you are done, it's just dash, dash, and then greater than. So it's less than, exclamation, dash, dash, and then dash, dash, greater than. So in this little example, you can see that I had kind of a syllabus out here, but then the weekly agendas I wanted hidden. So I put a little opening comment here, and then a closing comment at the bottom. And then as I want to display these, I can just take that little opening comment and move it down. Okay, so those are HTML comments. So that is a lot of information for this week. That is part of the reason I wanted you to split it into two parts. This is kind of an important week, and the biggest problem that people have is they don't pay attention to the upper and lowercase letters in their file names and in their folders. And then when you try to link to those, if you don't match up 100% with your upper and lowercase letters or your spaces, the links don't work. So I did create a little video with common problems that students face and then how to fix them. So, through the years, this is what I've noticed that people have done wrong. And I would encourage you guys to watch that because I think it'll help you. And then as far as the assignment goes, there is a textbook assignment and a lab assignment. The textbook assignment is more directive. And so there are videos in here. So you have to create some folders. And then we're going to start with modifying images in Lunapic. And you can see there is a video there for that. There's a link to Lunapic. These are files that you need to download. And this will pretty much walk you through exactly what you need to do. So you're going to manipulate some photos. And then you are going to add photos to an existing page. And this is the page that you're going to be adding them to. So when you download this, make sure you right click and save link as or save page as. Okay, that is the correct way to download files. And you're also going to want to use that right click method to download graphics. Okay, and there are videos that show you how to do all of this. Okay, and so you'll create this little Mackinac page. Then you're going to create a Yosemite page. And then you're going to download a page and do some internal links. Okay, and then you'll turn all of that in. So to FTP, a lot of students have asked me, how do you save your current connection so you don't have to keep keying that information in over and over? You can use what's called the site manager. And so how to save FTP information using the site manager, there's a video on that. There's an article, how the site manager works. It's kind of slick. If you click the arrow, here I have multiple sites, but all I have to do is click on the one I want to go to, and I don't have to key in all that information again. Okay, so it is kind of slick if you want to set it up. Once you get everything transferred, you'll go into the Dropbox and submit done. And then you will move on to the lab assignment. And for the lab assignment, there's two parts. The first part is creating a page that is going to be kind of similar to this. My theme on here was large cats. You can theme your page however you want, but the idea here is that you're going to have 3 different graphics, and each thumbnail is going to link to a larger web optimized picture. Okay, so you will have to find, what you want to do this on. It does not matter to me, totally up to you, but you want to do this kind of around a theme. And you'll notice that the information that I displayed, I did cite it. Okay, so I have it in double quotes, so that's perfectly fine. For right now, this is how it is going to display. Next week, when we learn CSS, we're going to make it look a little bit fancier. Okay, but the code that I used for that is displayed right here, so you can kind of see how I did it. So your first step is really going to be to find 3 kind of related pictures. The content can be whatever you want. You just have to adhere to NMC's Title IX and the Student Code of Conduct, which you guys can read through. As far as where do you find these pictures from, I do have some royalty-free sites. I like Pixabay. That's my own personal preference. That's where I usually go because I always find really nice photos that are royalty-free. So that's the first part. And then the second part of this assignment, now that you know how to do links, you're going to go into your assignment page and you are going to convert the text into links. And you'll notice that, I have the links here, but if you did not name your folders the same way I did, okay, for example, if you did lowercase l in lesson and you did a space before the 2, then you got to key it in that way. Because if you key it in like I did, your link's not going to work. Okay, so what I have here is how I named my folders and how I named my files. And if you guys named them the same way, then you're perfectly okay keying it in like this. If you did not name them the same, then you have to match how you named those files and folders. Okay, so what you're doing is you're converting all of the pages into links. So when I go to your assignment page, I should be able to click on those links and display your assignment. Then you need to add a graphic to your assignment page. And again, you can use any of these resources here. Or another kind of a nice resource is this free PowerPoint background site, because the graphics that they have there are quite nice for backgrounds. So you can kind of figure out what color you want. Get rid of the ad. And then you can kind of click on that. And you should find a couple different variations. And whatever one you like, you can save the image as and download it. Okay, so here is a video that kind of walks you through how to get one of those downloaded. And if you prefer to put a photo in there, chances are you are going to have to lighten it, especially if you go to somewhere like Pixabay. And let's say wanted some kind of a waterfall. That actually looks really pretty. But for a background, that is kind of dark. So I would probably need to lighten that up if I was going to use that. And so this little video here shows you how to pull it into Lunapic and make that background a little more transparent. Once you've got your graphic, you're going to add it to the page, to your assignment page, using a tag very similar to this. Okay. In fact, if you named your background background.jpg and you have it in a media folder, you could pretty much just copy that and paste it right into your page. Okay, so here's an example of how that looks. Okay, and then once you've got that, you're going to transfer everything and you will be done with the assignment. Okay, and then you'll go into the Dropbox and submit done. Now, if you run into problems or if you have questions, please let me know. Make sure you transfer your pages to the web because that's really the best way for me to help you. I actually have to see the pages and I can log into the server and I can actually open up the folder. And let me show you what I can do just so you know. I can actually go to the server like this. And I'm going to pull up Scooby-Doo, which is my fake student. Where is Scooby? I can open up the folder and I can take a look at the files. And so if something's not displaying right, I can actually look in the media folder, see how you named things. Okay, I can look at your HTML and figure out why it's not displaying. So make sure you get everything up on the web because then I'm going to be able to help you better. So again, let me know if you have questions and have an awesome week.